I'd like to call to order the regular Milan Heights Area Schools Board of Education regular meeting for Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you everyone attending this evening. All board members are present except for Ms. Murray. She is on her way, so she will be here shortly. We'll make note when she arrives. We will start with communications with public comments. A reminder, this meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It's not to be considered a public meeting. There are 2 times for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. When addressing the board, you will be asked to state your name. The board determines the amount of time granted to individuals or groups to speak. Each person shall be allowed to speak for up to 3 minutes. Board members may question speakers but are not obligated to answer questions or make statements or commitments in response to issues raised by the public. In general, such items will be referred to the superintendent for advisement, investigation, study, and/or recommendation, or designated as future agenda items for board consideration. Are there any students who'd like to address the board? Are there any public members who'd like to address the board? And Debbie, when you go up there, you'll have to press there's a green button on there.
And a light.
Yep, there you go.
All right, Debbie
just-
Allen. I just wanted to, I watched the meeting from last time and about in regards to the integrative math class. I just want to say as a parent, I sat in on the meeting last spring about the change in schedule. We were never aware that that class was going away out of the course catalog, so it was a shock to me that it was. Having an alumni student here, my student in the junior year took that course. I thought it was supposed to help them with the SAT class, so I was surprised that the class was removed from the course catalog. And I think Mr. Farrow, I think you had noted that the board wasn't aware that that was something that was happening as well. I don't know if you guys, I see that it's on the agenda tonight. I don't know if you're voting whether to keep it or not. As a parent though, last week getting that email, now that there's a 6-hour schedule and having a student going to consortium, it's not something my son is going to be able to fit in his schedule. So that's kind of disheartening. Also, 2 days to make a decision with only 2 weeks, week and a half going into the school year is kind of hard, especially if people were on vacation and whatnot. I don't know what kind of feedback you got. I don't know how many people you had sign up. Although I do know in the past you guys have ran classes with low numbers. So I would encourage you, if you do have a small number, I think that you need to still offer that class to students. For those students who it would benefit them for taking the SAT, who want to take the SAT, I think it's important for them to have that as an option. So if it is something that you guys are considering or have to vote on tonight, I strongly encourage you to keep that as part of that, a part of the course catalog for students that want to take it. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment. Are there others? All right, thank you for those comments this evening. Next up, in routine matters for approval, I need a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of August 9th of 2023.
Motion by Rosenleacher.
Support by Farrow.
It's been moved and supported to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of August 9th, 2023. Any discussion?
Mr. Sislo?
Yes, Ms. Gutierrez.
I would just like to note that I was absent for that meeting, and so I'll be abstaining from the vote.
Thank you. Any others? All right, it's been moved and supported to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of August 9th, 2023. Ms. Heika?
Sislo,
Yes.
Farrow,
Yes.
Freight. Yes. Gutierrez.
Abstain.
Heike, yes. Murray. Oh, she's absent. Sorry. Rosenleacher.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0 with 1 abstention.
Next up are the minutes of the special meeting. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting of August 14th, 2023.
Moved by Pharaoh.
Support by Gutierrez.
It's been moved and supported to approve the minutes of the special meeting of August 14th, 2023. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, it's been moved and supported to approve the minutes of the special meeting of August 14th, 2023. Ms. Heike?
Pharaoh,
Yes.
Freight,
Yes.
Gutierrez,
Yes.
Heike, yes. Rosenleacher,
Yes.
Sislo.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Next up, I need a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting closed session of August 14th, 2023.
Motion by Rosenleacher.
Support by Gutierrez.
It's been moved and supported to approve the minutes of the special meeting closed session of August 14th, 2023. Is there any questions or comments? All right, it's been moved, and these are the minutes in the envelope. It's been moved and supported to approve the minutes of the special meeting of closed session August 14th, 2023. Ms. Heike?
Freight,
Yes.
Gutierrez,
Yes.
Heike, yes. Rosenleacher,
Yes.
Sislo,
Yes.
Pharaoh.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
So you can pass those in. Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda in the area of board organization, we need to determine our voting delegates and alternate voting delegates to the MASB. I was mistaken last time. I thought we only did a delegate and an alternate delegate, but we actually do 2 delegates and 2 alternates. So again, in front of your space, there's just some information about that conference. It's November 9th through 12th. The delegate meeting is Thursday evening. So I know Ms. Rosenleacher and I, we were chosen as the delegate and the alternate at last meeting. So we'll go ahead and slot myself and Ms. Rosenleacher as the voting delegates. Are there anybody who would like to be the alternate voting delegate? That knows they're going to attend.
Yeah, Mr. Sislo, I don't believe I'm going to be attending.
Okay,
Mrs. Sislo, I will not be attending.
okay.
Mr. Sislo, if one is an alternate voting delegate, do they have to attend if the voting delegates are attending?
They do not.
They do not? Okay. I will be traveling very, very early on Friday morning, but if need be, I can be an alternate
All right.
and be there if need be.
So we'll put Ms. Gutierrez down.
I'm kind of in the same situation as Mrs. Gutierrez, but along those same lines, I'm in it if she is.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
All right, so I need a motion to approve the appointments listed below. Voting delegates to MASB is Ms. Rosenleacher and Mr. Sislo, and alternate voting delegates are Ms. Gutierrez and Ms. Freight.
So moved by Freight.
Support by Pharaoh.
It's been moved and supported to approve the appointments listed below. Voting delegates to MASB is Ms. Rosenleacher and Mr. Sislo. Alternate voting delegates are Ms. Gutierrez and Ms. Freight. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Heike?
Gutierrez,
Yes.
Heike, yes. Rosenleacher,
Yes.
Sislo,
Yes.
Pharaoh,
Yes.
Freight.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right, thank you. Next up is in the area of finance and operations for our strategic plan. I need a motion to approve the City of Milan fuel purchase agreement as included in attachment A.
Moved by Pharaoh.
Support by Rosenleacher.
So moved and supported to approve the City of Milan fuel purchase agreement as included in attachment A. Mr. Gearbaum.
Just very briefly, it's hard to believe that we're at the end of a 10-year agreement that we had with the city, but the agreement does end on December 31st of this year. So I spoke with the city administrator, and we felt let's get the contract renewed early so that we're not being pressed. The city council has already approved the agreement at their meeting. So this contract is identical to the contract that we had in place for the last 10 years, other than the dates have been changed. A lot of this language won't apply because they already have the gate keys and the cards and all of those things. But if they ever did need an additional gate key or card, there's a small fee that we charge them to do that. It's a very simple agreement. They buy their fuel at the price that we pay for it, and we add a very small $75 billing fee once a quarter. Just to remind everyone in the community, we also have an agreement with them that we purchase our road salt from them to salt our parking lots, and we have a very similar agreement for that. So it works well. They have a bay to store the salt in that we don't, and we have gas pumps that they don't, and they can get their gas quite a bit cheaper by purchasing it from us. So it's a great relationship, and look forward to having you approve this so we can continue that for another 10 years.
Any questions or concerns in regards to the fuel purchase agreement?
Mr. Sislo?
Yes, Ms. Gutierrez.
Just to clarify, this would be another 10-year agreement?
Yes, it is, but we have the option at the end of each year to not renew it if we choose not to, but it automatically renews if no one communicates that they want out of the agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? All right, it's been moved and supported to approve the City of Milan fuel purchase agreement as included in attachment A. Ms. Heika.
Heika, yes. Rosenleacher,
Yes.
Sislo,
Yes.
Pharaoh,
Yes.
Freight,
Yes.
Gutierrez.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right, we can reflect that Ms. Murray arrived at 7:11 in the minutes. Next up on the agenda in the area of learning environment of culture, we are going to talk about the Milan High School integrated math class. At the last meeting, we did ask Mr. Gearbaugh to create a section of the integrated math class, and he's going to give an update in regards to that.
The first thing that I would like to share is I know that there were some concerns with the reading class and maybe we weren't quite ready to implement that. Some of the training was not in place, and I understand that. With the math class, it's a little bit different situation. The math department has been working hard to make sure that all of the material from this class is integrated into the 3 previous math classes that the students would take. So there won't be any loss of gaining that knowledge and being prepared for the test. I spoke with a couple of teachers in the department today, and they have a very large Google Drive created with shared materials that they will be able to use and teach those lessons throughout those other 3 classes. And with the extended time that each class will meet, they'll have time to do that. So we did, as you asked, put a communication out to the families of the junior class. We received 12 responses of people that were interested. One of them, however, was only interested if it could replace the Algebra 2 class, which according to Michigan Merit Curriculum is not allowed. So we really had 11 students who were interested in the class. As we reviewed the possibilities of that class with AP courses and consortium courses and different things, we truly believe that if we run the class, we would have about 5 to 7 students in the course. It would require us to either hire a teacher on their prep period, which would put whatever math teacher chose to do that up to 4 preps, because they all have 3 preps right now, or we'd be forced to attempt to hire a teacher for 1/6 of the day. We don't normally run classes at 5 to 7, and especially when that material is going to be integrated into the other 3 math classes that students preparing for the SAT or the ACT would take. We feel that possibly this course is not necessary, and that's why I asked you to reconsider the decision. I will tell you that no matter what the outcome of your decision tonight is, we will follow up with those 12 students and let them know how we're proceeding. And I can answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions or concerns?
Mr. Sislo?
Yeah, Mr. Farrell.
Mr. Gearbaugh, could you tell me how the students were communicated with?
An email was sent to their families. So not to the, I believe to the students as well as the families, but I know an email was sent to the families using our communication system.
Was there a group text? A group communication, like the texting service that we use for communicating like weather delays and things like that?
I do not believe so. I think it was just an email, which is the main system that we use in our communication system.
Thank you.
Other questions or concerns?
Mr. Sislo?
Yes, Ms. Gutierrez.
At the last meeting, I had asked if there was any feedback that we had heard from the teachers, the math teachers or the math department on this change, and at the time, it seemed that there was none. But since then, it seems that we have received information and feedback that this change has actually grown out of the math department. And so I was hoping that you, Mr. Gearba, or Mr. McMahon, could say a little bit about the evolution of this from within the math department and what our staff are saying about this transition and this change.
I will do my best, and if I don't do it well, we have one of the math department people here, and she can correct me. My understanding is that as we were looking in moving from a 7-hour day to a 6-hour day and looking at the possibility of this course not being as eligible to students because of the decrease from 28 classes to 24 classes over 4 years, the math department started looking at exactly how the course could be redesigned or integrated into the other classes. At the same time, they have been working for a couple of years on creating a statistics class that's not advanced placement, that a lot of our students could really use, and especially our students going into the health fields really need that class. And so it was kind of in tandem. My understanding is that as they were working on how to integrate this material into the 3 math classes, they also developed a non-advanced placement statistics class. And that's why I said it the way I did. One of the options, if we had to put this class on the schedule, is to cut that statistics class. But the math department has worked so hard in developing that, and we really do have students that need it, that we don't like that option. So the option would be to hire a teacher on their prep period. And this is information that maybe wasn't shared as well as it could have been at the last meeting, but a lot of this work was taken to the leadership team, which has, I think, about 14 members on it. The department heads from all the departments are there. So this work was worked on throughout the year, and the department heads were involved, and the department heads went back to their departments and worked on it. And I think that was kind of the flavor of the email that you received from the math department regarding this matter. Does that help answer your questions?
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you. May I ask a follow-up question?
Absolutely.
As a follow-up, it seems then that there has been more attention and thought behind this change than I understood last meeting. Yet I'm still concerned, particularly regarding the public comment that was made, that perhaps that has not been communicated to families in the same way. And I'm wondering, however, in light that this course, my understanding, used to have 85 students or so, and now only have 12, so it seems that there may be some understanding that would suggest to me that some students are aware of how, or students or families do see how the new proposal will meet the needs for integrative math and not need that course. Yet I'm hearing other things from our community that they have not received that communication. And so what would that look like moving forward? I think, again, going back and making sure our communities and our stakeholders understand the way in which not offering this course would in fact fulfill the needs for college prep that have been identified.
First, I think if any parent reached out to the high school or reached out to anyone, they would be able to explain it to them. We have not had any families that I understand have reached out to us with a concern, and schedules were released to students quite a while ago. So there was really not a lot of push on us from any families. And I will say, from year to year, courses are added to and taken away from being offered. That doesn't always mean they come out of the course catalog, because we may put them back in place at some time. But courses do come and go, and that's not something that we always communicate all of that to the community. It goes based on the number of students that request a course. And So I don't think it's out of the norm that we wouldn't have communicated with the families to tell them that this class wasn't going to be offered. They see the course catalog and things come and go. That's just part of running a school district. Again, if any parent called and asked about it, we would very clearly explain it and make sure that they had a good understanding of why we did what we did.
Mr. Sislo?
Yeah, Ms. Heika.
So I truly appreciate the work that the math department has done. And I don't want there to be any belief otherwise, because I do. I, however, am still very concerned that we had a class that, from all accounts, was very successful. And if there's data to tell me I'm wrong, I'm happy to look at it. I just haven't seen it. And I think that particularly in our district, where many students can't afford an SAT prep class, that offering something like this in our district, to me, was not only important, but was kind of a recognition of the limitations financially that some of our students have and our families have. And so I certainly am not expecting the district to run a class with, 5 or 7 people. But I do think we have to continue to have this conversation so that we are fully prepared in the 2024-2025 school year. If we're fully prepared that if we're not going to offer it, we communicate that and we understand why, and we understand how we are accommodating that information. And if it turns out that we should offer it, that then we are accommodating that in the new 6-hour day as well.
Mr. Zislo?
Yes, Mr. Farrell.
And I want to add, I think that the challenge for me was that it seemed like big changes, that these courses, this course wasn't going to be offered, that, the material was going to be offered in other ways. And I just think that if that is going to occur while it occurred in the math department, and while you all knew about it in the math department, and while there might not have been inquiries about the class being offered, when we take a look at the course catalog, we're assuming that course is going to transpire. So last week, when I voiced my concerns are more along the lines of the high school administration could have done a better job of communicating with families and students about what was changing and why it was changing, the rationale for the change, how the students were going to be benefiting from these changes. And I also think it would have been helpful for Mr. Gearbaugh to communicate that information to us. We have one employee in the district, and that's Mr. Gearbaugh. So my stance last week was certainly not intended to be disrespectful in any way of our math department or our math teachers, but it was really intended to get across to everyone on the admin team that we have a duty to communicate big changes to our stakeholders. And from my perspective, just presenting us a course catalog and not explaining to us what's being dropped, what's being reimagined, what's being changed, I don't believe that was enough. And so I support what Michelle has said. I support what Ms. Gutierrez has said. I think it was a big ask for us to expect the math department to continue or to offer this course 2 weeks before school. But I just think, like I said previously, I just think it would have been helpful to us and to parents and students that these changes were being made and why they were being made. And I think we need to do that moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell. Others?
Mr. Sislo?
Yes, Ms. Rosenleacher.
I respect the opinion of my fellow board members, but I suspect there are other courses that are not operating this year due to enrollment numbers that have never been brought forward to a Board of Education. That's not specifically within our purview, and it does start to dip the toe into micromanagement of our administrative team and the work that they do to offer a high quality opportunities to our learners. So I just want us to be cautious how many other courses are out there that we're not offering because enrollment numbers are low. And that's something that we would be getting in the weeds as a Board of Education if we asked for that to happen every single time scheduling occurs. Thank you.
Mrs. Sislo.
Yeah, Mr. Farrell.
I just want to make another comment. I concur with what you're saying, Ms. Rosenleacher. However, for example, the introduction of the AP Stats course, I'm sorry, the
Introduction to
In a-
stats.
the
Intro to
introduction to
Yeah.
stats, excuse me.
Sure.
I think it would be helpful to know that. Not that I'm going to impress upon the administration to make changes or to explain every last detail on each course that we offer, but, you know, reading Ms. Mahaney's email, that provided me more information and context on why the stats course was being offered and why. And that, again, is helpful to me as a board member, but it wasn't, I'm not sure that any of this information was made available to students and families. And I think that that could have been helpful. Thank you.
Other questions or concerns?
Mr. Sislo.
Yeah, Ms. Freight.
I'm taking a page out of Carrie's book and listening to everybody, and I certainly understand Mrs. Rosenleacher's approach and Mr. Farrell's as well, and as I spoke with you, but for the record, I do think that conveying the information, we don't need to know about every single course. That's not our job, plain and simple. And you design the courses, so we trust you and always have. Yeah, you've never done wrong by my kids, so I got you, 100%. However, as I spoke with Mr. Sislo, I do think that the 2 meetings we had regarding this was a great opportunity to present these classes as a selling point to help with our enrollment. To say, oh, hey, yep, we don't have the integrated anymore. That's something that we worked. We've integrated it into these other classes, so we're not dropping that ability. But we've now seen a need. Is this the first year we're offering the introduction to stats? Okay, and we have been working on this for a little bit, correct? Because I believe I've heard about it since my daughter was in there. So we're finally able to do it and have the interest. Are we only running 1 section? So, 2. Okay, 2 sections. So that's good to hear too, that there's obvious interest in doing that. And I also think it's important that it's a non-AP class, because I think that advanced placement scares people, and so it's great that, we'll have more interest, we'll do that. I do think that the communication of that isn't so much in getting our approval of the classes, but helping us as a selling point. I think that's something to say, that our math department realizes that there's a need out there for our students, and that, wow, not only will you be able to integrate the college prep classes into all of our stuff that we've had so much success with, but we also have this opportunity, and this is something you don't necessarily get at a different school. I think that's the same thing that we could have done with the reading literacy, is, wow, look at what we do. Should you come in and bring us kids that have this initial problem? We see that need, we want to fill that need. We are the people, if we want to focus on your kids, this is how we focus on it. This is how we put the proof in the pudding. And I do think that it could have been conveyed better, so that we could have, as I told Mr. Sislo, defended everyone, been able to say, when people call and say, what is this? Well, let me tell you. Because for years, as Mrs. Gutierrez mentioned, I hear different things from subbing in the district for over 10 years through the community, and people ask, well, what is this class? Well, what do I do for that class? What do you do? You always tell them to refer to the teachers, but this is what my kiddo took, and this is why, and this is what we gained from that. In the midst of this low enrollment, it would be really cool to have, or would have been really cool to sell that, to boost our math department and say, wow, they not only saw a need for this health-related or a non-AP statistics class, but we also saw the need to spread the SAT preparation in there. So like to Mrs. Heike's point, we still have that for our kids. We saw the value of it. We were very successful with it, correct? I think our numbers were for over a decade, correct? I mean, because we did it for ACT and SAT. And that was, as you pointed out to me, thank you very much, Mr. McMahon, not just your college prep kids. It improved everybody's scores, right? Or, well, the thought was, the hope was, the intent was behind it. So I do think, as Mrs. Gutierrez also pointed out, our literacy, we have a way to test the kids and kind of section them off and know the needs. With the integrated math, we don't always know the need. Some kiddos don't want to take that. That's why they didn't take an AP statistics class. So you don't always know the need. But in the midst, like Mr. Farrow was saying, of really big changes and completely removing an elective, on top of, changing from that 6-hour day in our seniors, I think it would have been imperative to convey that too, because I don't know if it was conveyed to the 10th graders that you don't even have an option of the integrated. Was it? Okay.
We spoke all of the students were aware.
Okay.
So we were very involved in their scheduling. The math department was. We spoke to all the classes and talked about options and how things were doing.
That there wouldn't be no integrated though?
Yes,
Okay.
the students were aware.
Thank
Or
you.
they could take it online, through the online course catalog. That is an option. I think there's 3 students right now enrolled in SAT as an online class. that they can
Fabulous.
do.
Okay. And again, would have been great to know. You know what I mean? Again, as with our low enrollment numbers, we have to have something special to bring people our way. And this is something unique. It shows a need to our students, it fulfills a need, and it would have been nice to showcase that and to have known all that and know that there was buy-in instead of, wow, not only are we going from 7 to 6 and we're removing the electives. As I stated before, the electives keep our kids in school. They're not staying to come to take Algebra 2, as the one person tried to get out of it. They're not staying to take biology, as much as I love it. They're staying for the electives, and their parents and families are staying for what our school offers them. And it would have been very nice to showcase that and say, not only do we offer our AP classes, and AP Stats is one of them, we also offer this as an option, and had that kind of conversation instead of putting people on defense and make them think that we don't buy into what you're doing. Because I firmly believe that was not the intention at all. From what we knew and what the information given to us, it needed to at least be offered. Especially based on the years of success that we've had and the amount of kids that we've always had take it, it needed to at least be offered, was my humble opinion, if you will. Thank you, Mr. Sisson.
Thank you, Ms. Freight. Others?
Mr. Sissel, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So if we now have juniors and sophomores who were not part of this expanded math class, how are we preparing them for the material that they will miss because it will be offered now to the freshmen and the sophomores?
It'll go, our SAT, the plan is it'll go into all the math classes.
I understand that, but if I take my class, my integrated math class that I would have taken in my junior year, and now I'm a junior, and we're gonna break those off, and so I'm gonna teach part of it to the freshmen, part of it to the sophomores, and then part of it to the juniors, what are we gonna do for the material that the juniors are gonna miss because they would not have got the benefit of that spreading it out their freshman and sophomore year?
They will, that's a very good question. It's gonna depend on what class they're in, because we'll teach the subject, the SAT questions and how it's organized is broken down essentially by topic or standard. Like we have, everything that deals with quadratics, we have everything that deals with linear. So they will get that SAT practice when we cover those topics within the class. The plan is to bring it in when we are hitting those. Quite frankly, there's 2 geometry questions on an SAT. Geometry we can cover, that's not an issue. If they're in algebra, pre-calculus, or the integrated stats class, they'll get the same, we will get that material. Along with Con, they can take their PSAT scores, because we will test them all in October. And Con links and gives a detailed, we'll have the detailed list. And there can be times where they can use the Palm Academy as well to help supplement what they need.
So we're gonna rely on Khan Academy to supplement juniors?
No, not rely on, it's just another tool. We have, I wish Mr. the 2 integrated teachers describe their labeling system much better than I can. But yes, the plan is that every unit we teach, there is a tie to where it is on the SAT. And our plan is to introduce those SAT concepts. It's the same material, the difference is just how it's questioned, how it's asked. For lack of, without doing it.
So is it the department's intention that the juniors will get all of the instruction that they would have gotten had they taken integrated math?
Well, no, it's not the same as sitting in the integrated every single day, but they will get SAT prep.
Okay.
Other questions or concerns?
Mr. Sislo?
Yes, Ms. Gutierrez.
I heard something just in passing that I'd like clarification on. Did I hear you correct, Mrs. Mahaney, that there's an online version of integrated math
Yeah,
that is
it's in the-
available to students?
Yep, all students, I believe, Mr. Rick, they can take 2 online classes. Yeah, the rule in the state is they can take 2 online classes, any class that's offered through, I think there's like 6 or 7 providers. And SAT math prep is a class.
And that's freely available to students?
Yep, at no charge.
Okay, that's very helpful, thank you.
Mrs. Mahaney, if I can back up that, and that was explained, like when you said you were talking to the students that, if you want this integrated math class, you can take it online?
Yep.
Other questions or concerns?
Mr. Sislo?
Yeah, Mr. Farrow.
So if we don't offer this course, will the high school administration let the students know that they can take this online if they desire?
Do you mean the students that requested
Yeah,
the course?
yeah.
Yes, that'll be part of the communication.
Okay, thank you.
If we, Mr. Sislo?
Yeah, Mr.
If we were to change the motion to offer integrated, would that still be able to have something that is the everyday, if we wanted more of an SAT prep thing, Mrs. Mahaney, and still, like next year, offer your intro to stats too, or is that something that is just too difficult to do within?
That's beyond my ability to answer because it's staffing, it's like how many
Yeah.
preps and I can't answer that.
That question really, it depends year to year, depending, how many students need algebra that year, how many need geometry that year. It's going to vary from year to year. Our math teachers don't always teach the same number of sections of every course every year because it varies. So it could still be offered, and it might get enough students to run, it might not. So I don't think there's an issue with keeping it in the course catalog and offering it and seeing how many students sign up for it, and if we get enough to run it, then we run it. We do that with a lot of classes at the high school.
Is it fair enough to then say that in the course catalog where it says, offered online only, to just offered, and then we see what avenue it has to go if it is online based on interest? Because I think that's what, like you just said, Mr. Gearwald, we've gone with options in the past, correct?
Yeah, does the course catalog currently say offered
Fully
online only?
online. That's what I brought up before. I thought one of the classes I looked up said offered
I
fully online.
I don't know, I'd have to look at the course catalog.
How many sections did we have of it last year? Do we know, by any chance? Do you know, Mahaney? I'm sorry.
I don't.
I feel like
But it was more than 2, correct?
it was, but some of the sections were so small. Like, did it have to be? I think there were some sections that had only like 12 or 13 kids that you could have combined into like 2
If
smaller ones.
schedules would have allowed, right? Thank you.
Mr. Sislo?
Yes, Ms. Gutierrez.
I don't know how popular it is for high school students to take online courses because I don't have a high schooler yet. But might it be possible, if a student has already exceeded the number of online courses that they are allowed and want to take this course as an online course, that could be covered or waived as an intermediary between if we are not able to hold the course based upon enrollment?
They can take 2 online courses a year.
A year,
Yeah.
not throughout their high school career?
Yes, correct?
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's
that
2
should not be
it's
an
2
issue?
a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those would be very high achievers if they did more than that, then. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Sislo?
Yes, Mr. Farrow.
So what direction does Mr. Gearbaugh need from us tonight?
I would say that we'd probably need a motion, because the last motion was to create the class, and I think based on some of the discussion and with the numbers that have been presented, we'll probably have to revisit that motion.
All right, I'd like to make a motion that we rescind the offering of the integrated math course as directed last meeting.
I'll try.
Rescind the
Yep.
integrated math classes directed in the last meeting.
So I have a motion to rescind the integrated math class as directed in the last meeting. Is the motion on the table?
Correct.
Do I have a second?
Support by Rosenleacher.
It's been moved and supported to rescind the integrated math class as directed in the last meeting. Further discussion and questions or concerns?
Mr. Sisla?
Yes.
I'm prepared to support this motion tonight, given the low numbers, but I do want to continue to have this conversation because I think it is an important math class. I understand I'm not a math teacher, but I've had my own personal experience with this class as a parent. I've known other people who've had experience with this class. I remember having lots of discussions as a board about the importance of this class. And so I think we still need to continue to discuss it and see where we go from here. I think we'll get some data this year from the juniors and see where this, new plan kind of falls compared to their predecessors, and we can use that to kind of guide our principals. But I'm prepared to do this for this year, but I think we still need to have discussions as to what happens in 2024 and 2025.
Other questions or concerns?
Mr. Sislo?
Yes, Ms. Gutierrez.
Forgive me for getting a bit tied up in the semantics here, but I don't know if this motion is necessary, as we originally directed Mr. Gearbaugh to offer the course. The course has been offered.
There's a problem. Do you want to?
Yeah, I went back and looked at the tape, and the motion is to create one.
is
To create.
To create at least
Okay.
one section.
Thank you for the clarification. I think a bit too, we can get tied up in semantics, and
Yeah.
the question is, are we rescinding it because the enrollment's low, or because we changed our mind, or because we got more information very helpfully? I want to make clear that I don't know if we want to set a precedent of why we're rescinding this. I don't think we want to, as a board, get in the business of saying we need to approve the cancellation of classes below a certain enrollment or something like that. I agree that we have received many different aspects of information that make me also comfortable with supporting this, but with no one specific rationale or reason. It's the culmination of all the things. And for me, it's in large part because we received additional information and clarification, thankfully very much from Mrs. Mahaney in the math department, about the way in which the new proposal of curriculum was envisioned and born out of the department. And so I really appreciate that. But I want to ensure that this is not precedent setting where we are in the business of setting numbers for enrollment. I think that that's at the purview of administration and not something that we need to get in the weeds on and micromanage.
Mr. Sislo?
Yes.
To Ms. Gutierrez's point, I feel like Mr. Farrow's motion, because he said as directed at the last meeting, I feel like that covers it. It isn't indicating specificity that it was low numbers or otherwise. It was just rescinding our motion from last meeting.
Others?
Mr. Sislo?
Yes, Ms. Murray.
First of all, I want to quickly apologize for being late, and I'm very grateful that I was able to make it for this discussion. And I apologize that I missed the opening public comments because it seems as though there was additional valuable information that was shared. However, I was in the minority in the votes at our last meeting and was not in support of the resolutions that were adopted. It's my personal opinion that they were, well, let me back up. First of all, I have so much respect and admiration for the discussion that occurred at this table leading up to those votes. I think that that's something that we need to continue to engage in, and I thought that the conversations that were had were largely healthy and demonstrative of a board that cares deeply about our students and the supports that are provided to them. That being said, I still believe that those resolutions were reactionary to a great extent. I think that they were a response to our frustrations regarding communication and the short time that we were allowed to have to process this new information. Feeling the pressure to act on a tight timeline, knowing that the start of the school year was, barreling at us at a lightning pace. And then just our own fears or uncertainties about whether our students were going to have the vital supports that they need. None of us want to move forward feeling that supports are going to be lost. But I share kind of what Ms. Gutierrez was alluding to about setting a precedent. I think that we did get into the weeds a little bit in terms of what this board's responsibilities are and what are the curricular and pedagogical responsibilities of our staff and our administrators. We have a lot of combined knowledge at this board. We're very fortunate to have professional educators and administrators and parents of students who have gone through this district, K through 12, former educators. But I almost wonder if that knowledge kind of works against us sometimes. And that may have been, a part of this decision as well. I think one of the unintended consequences, and we heard this come through in our administrator's letter to the board, that we inadvertently communicated a lack of trust and confidence. And so I just want to take a moment to thank the administrators and the staff for the additional work that they've done in order to comply with the board's directives. And then for taking the time to meet and collectively share their concerns with us in such a clear and respectful manner. And take a moment to acknowledge that while sharing my own questions and concerns about this new instructional plan, if I in any way communicated my own lack of confidence in our instructional leaders, I want to apologize for that, because that could not be further from the truth, and it was certainly not my intent. But I want to take a moment to just acknowledge those harms to our teaching and our administrative staff, because the work that you do is vital, and it's not the work that this board does. We're here to ideally support that work. And I think it's valid that we question the work, that we demand transparency around the work, that we achieve a great understanding of that work so that we can be your advocates. And I think that, for me, that's where the process lagged a little, was us not having that full knowledge or understanding of how the supports were going to be reimagined for our students. There really was, to me, a deficit mindset that was coming through at that meeting. Like, we're losing this, we're losing that, this is going away, we're taking these away. But that, to me, after especially having time to process, is not my opinion of what seems to be happening, either for reading or for math. So I am prepared to support the rescinding of that motion or that directive tonight. And again, just want to thank my fellow board members for all of your reasoned and healthy discussion and all of the perspective and knowledge that you bring to this table. This has been a not easy growing experience, but it certainly has been a growing experience for me, and I look forward to supporting our staff and administration going forward for this school year. So thank you. That was a lengthy comment. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. Are there others?
Mr. Sisler.
Yes, Ms. Frey.
Just to further muddy the waters, I again, thank you, Mrs. Gutierrez. I'm taking your page of sitting back and listening. While I can understand the support to rescind it, I do wonder if we want to just replace the word create and put offer. Because I agree with Mrs. Heike on the continuance of the need to revisit this and see if that's something there. And moving forward, that the administration did follow that objective, that we're not, the numbers are too low, and we continue to kind of keep that on the purview of just to offer it. And that's they decide what we're offering, as Mr. Gearbaugh explained, on the course catalog and that type of thing. I do think it might be easier to just, instead of rescinding anything, potentially changing create to offer, as me and Mrs. Gutierrez thought we had intended. Just a thought.
I'd say that would be up to the initial person that offered the motion.
Did you understand what I meant?
I think with the level of discussion you've had, you should probably vote on this motion. And then if it gets voted down, then another motion could be made. That's just my opinion.
Tom can change the motion if he wanted to, though,
Yeah,
correct?
absolutely.
No, he
So-
can, and then the supporter just has to support it. But I think at this point, I mean, if if the administration decided to run this class with 7 kids, nothing prevents them from doing that at this point, right? We intended for them to offer the class. I understand I misspoke at the last meeting. And so they have, in my mind, carried out the intention of the last class. They know our position about this class at this point. And so, I'm comfortable leaving it to the administration at this point to decide whether or not they're going to run that class, given the expressed interest. And so I think that we've made our opinions very clear. And I think that if we rescind it, that doesn't prevent them from running the class, so if they so choose to.
Mr. Sisson?
Yeah, Mr. Farrell.
I agree with Ms. Heike, and I'm not prepared to change the motion.
Okay. Other comments or concerns?
Mr. Sisler?
Yes, Ms. Gutierrez.
I think I'm still prepared to support this motion for the reasons that Ms. Heike very eloquently stated. I would like to continue to support the recommendation that the administration continue to offer this course as a means of gauging interest as this curriculum is undergoing these changes, to see and revisit whether or not the new structure is meeting the needs of the students for the purposes of college prep, as well as the suggestion earlier to inform and remind perhaps students that the online version of this course is available. I think that meets some of those concerns that were held in the original motion.
Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez. Others? All right, I have a motion to rescind the integrated math class as directed at the last meeting. Ms. Heike?
Murray,
Yes.
Rosenleacher,
Yes.
Sislo,
Yes.
Farrow,
Yes.
Freight,
No.
Gutierrez,
Yes.
Heike, yes. Motion carries 5-1. 6-1, sorry.
6-1.
I need an integrated math class.
6-1. All right, thank you for that discussion. Next up, in the area of personnel and leadership, we have several teacher appointments. I need a motion to appoint the following people to the teaching positions listed and base salaries listed effective immediately for the 2023-2024 school year. Brenna, is it? Bryna. Okay, Bryna Johnson, Milan High School teacher consultant, Taylor Howard, Simon's social worker, and Christina Matrozik, Simon's 4th grade teacher.
Moved by Heike.
Support by Murray.
So moved and supported to appoint the following people to the teaching positions listed and base salaries listed effective immediately for the 2023-24 school year. Bryna Johnson, Taylor Howard, and Christina Matrozik. Discussion.
Mr. Gearbo? Or Mr. Sislo? I don't know how
Yeah,
my address.
go ahead, yeah, Ms. Frey.
My apologies.
No problem.
Mr. Gearbo, as you provided the information, but just to be clear, all of these positions were open due to resignations, correct?
Correct.
So we're just filling previous spots?
Yes.
Correct?
Yep.
And just a side question, I know it's boring and kind of long, but as we keep having newer staff and things, is it possible to maybe have them come in and move this up so we could put a face to the name? Because I know a lot of us, maybe know Mrs. Mahaney, but might not know that that was Mrs. Mahaney. So it'd be kind of nice just to have a facial put a name to the face, not all of us can make just a thought, so.
What we did pre-COVID, and we can get back into that, is we would invite all of the newly hired staff to one of the meetings in September, so that they came in and met everyone. I don't know that it's necessarily appropriate to have them at the meeting where they're being approved or not approved. That could go poorly. But we do, we did in the past invite all of the new hires to a meeting in September or October so that you got to meet them.
Thank you for the memory. It'd be nice if we could do that again. Appreciate it.
Mr. Gearba, I assume we followed all of our normal hiring practices and procedures when selecting these candidates.
Yes, we did. We did it in a very short amount of time, but we followed every piece of the hiring procedures and made sure that we did all reference checks and 2 rounds of interviews and the right people were involved in those interviews. I will say too, one of these hires was actually, the application was collected via Indeed. And so we are now posting all of our positions on Indeed. We knew that we needed to do that with our non-certified positions because people that are looking to be a custodian or a parapro probably aren't going to a district website to look for the job. We were a little caught off guard that we posted a special ed teacher consultant position on Indeed and got an amazing candidate from Indeed. And I think the reason is it's someone that newly moved to the state and therefore kind of didn't know how the state of Michigan posts jobs, but knew to go to Indeed to look. And so we're very excited that that worked, and that's part of our new process is to post positions on Indeed.
Good to hear.
Mr. Sisla?
Yes, Ms. Gutierrez.
Mr. Gearba, are we then fully staffed up for the start of the year? I know we've been doing a lot of hiring and the admin suite's been very busy.
We are fully staffed. I will tell you that I believe we have one staff member that may be off on, with some health conditions at the beginning of the year, and we have a long-term sub position posted for that. But other than that, we are fully staffed. I will say we still need more parapros, and I think every district is dealing with that. But in the teaching ranks, yes, we are fully staffed during the school year.
Well, kudos to you and your team for all of this. I know hiring is a lot of work, and there's been a lot of them in the last couple meetings, and so this is really remarkable that we're ready to go for the start of the year.
Other comments, questions? All right, it's been moved and supported to appoint the following people to the teaching positions listed and the base salaries listed effective immediately for the 23-24 school year. Bryna Johnson, Taylor Howard, and Christina Matrosik. Ms. Heiko.
Rosenleacher,
Yes.
Sislo,
Yes.
Farrow,
Yes.
Freight,
Yes.
Gutierrez,
Yes.
Heika, yes, Murray.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right. This brings us back to communications and community engagement for public comment. And just a reminder that this meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It's not to be considered a public meeting. There are 2 times for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. When addressing the board, you'll be asked to state your name. The board determines the amount of time granted to individuals or groups to speak. Each person shall be allowed to speak for up to 3 minutes. Board members may question speakers but are not obligated to answer questions or make statements or commitments in response to issues raised by the public. In general, such items will be referred to the superintendent for advisement, investigation, study, and/or recommendation, or designated as future agenda items for board consideration. Are there any students who'd like to address the board? Are there any public members who'd like to address the board?
The mic is
I just wanted to thank Mrs. Mahaney for clarifying the integrated math. My student didn't come down home and say any of the changes, so that's why it's important when there's major changes that it just doesn't go through the students. It comes to the parents. As far as the course catalog, there's some other changes in there too, like the English. It's no longer English 9, 10, whatever it used to be. There's all these new names for stuff. There's other courses in there I know my student has tried to take, and obviously must not be enough students to take them. But one question I do have, the personal finance class, I thought there was a change in the state, and I thought that in 2024, personal finance was something that was going to be a requirement for students. And how is that going to factor in? If somebody, I don't know if Mr. McMahon or Mr. Gearbaugh at some point, if you can answer that. I'm just curious because that is something that is important. I can't tell you how many students out there wish, now that they're out of high school, including my own, wish they had a personal finance class. They don't understand credit and, you know, how it works. They think you just charge stuff on a card and it goes away. So I'm just curious how that's going to work, because there are a lot of classes in our course catalog, and sometimes it just seems like it's narrowing down and there aren't that many electives to take, and then going to the 6-hour course schedule, especially if you have a student that's going to consortium, there's not many options with all the requirements they have. So anyways, I just am curious about the personal finance, because I thought there was a change to the state law. Thanks.
Thank you for the comment. Yeah.
There was a change. It's not the requirement of a personal finance course. It's a personal finance unit. And so we are going to have a course that's integrated into that every student will take.
And when is that take effect next year?
I believe it's next year, but we're integrating it into that course now. It will partly be integrated this year, but yeah, when the state first came out, all of the school districts thought it was a course as well, and then they later clarified, no, it's a unit. And that is something that we used to do in the MCIS, and we've moved some pieces of that into some other classes, but it will now become a valid unit in one of the classes that every student is required to take.
Right. Any other public comment? All right, next up on the agenda is student board member comment, or student board representative comments. We look forward to them joining us at the next meeting. Assistant superintendent comments, Mr. McMahon.
Yeah, thank you. I'll give you a quick grant update from the state. The consolidated app, which covers our federal grant funds, is close to being complete. It's due August 31st. That got pushed back from the previous due date. I might be able to submit it as early as tomorrow. There's just one last piece that we're working on. And also another update is just this week, the MDE announced additional funds for the robotics grant from last year. Based on their allocation method, they had leftover money and they contacted the school district. For us, it's $921, and we have to spend it by September 31st, which is a strange requirement, or they're going to deduct it from our next year's allocation. So we're going to spend it, but we have to come up with a plan, and we have to amend the app and get it approved. It's weird the way they did it, but we're going to meet that requirement. And I also want to take a minute to acknowledge the administrative team in the district for the effort they put forth this summer, not only getting ready for the school year, but also for the vast amount of additional time they put towards district strategic planning for long-range plans. We rely on them. We asked a lot of them this summer. They stepped up and met our requests, and I'm very grateful for their support.
Thank you, Mr. McMahon. Superintendent comments, Mr. Gearbaugh.
Yes, thank you. Several things to share this evening. First, and I know there's some confusion around this, and trust me, there's confusion across the state on this, but most of the details of this from the state of Michigan have been finalized, and we are excited to announce that Milan area schools will be participating in the Michigan School Meals Program. This program will provide free breakfast and lunch to all MAS students 4 years old and older. As a household, you are still responsible for completing the application for Michigan School Meals Program. Students will continue to maintain a benefit status of free, reduced, or paid under the new program, even though food is free to everyone. And I know that's a little confusing. Part of this is students who do fill out the application for federal free meals, their meal will be paid for by the federal government. If it's reduced, the federal government will cover the reduced amount, and then the state of Michigan layers on top of that, covering the rest of the reduced price or the full price if the student didn't qualify for free or reduced. So part of the issue that the federal government has impressed on the state of Michigan is it's great that you're offering that, but you can't stop getting people to sign up for federal. Also, I will say the amount of money that the state of Michigan set aside for this is counting on all of those students who used to qualify for federal free, still qualifying for federal free. So if people don't apply for that and get that, the amount of money the state has is not going to cover the meals for every student.
Mr. Gearball, can I ask you a question about that? I didn't mean to interrupt your flow, but I did get a question from a parent that I actually didn't know the answer to. So if your student did not qualify for free or reduced lunch before, there's no form you have to fill out at this time. You're just saying that if you qualify for federal free or reduced lunch, please still fill out your form.
Yes,
Okay.
and if I finish my statement,
I'm
that'll be
so
there.
sorry,
And
but
there's going
I
to
got
be,
this
there is
question
going to be
earlier
another
and-
email going out. And let me, there's some reason why Milan did it the way we did it. First, I know some other districts were a little bit ahead of us in getting their information out. We were very concerned that if we got the free meals for everybody out too soon, families would not apply for free and reduced lunch. Luckily, by the time we put it out, we already had 200 applicants for free and reduced lunch. Since my first email went out, we've had another 125 applicants for free and reduced lunch. I absolutely am going to send another email out now that we've had a lot of applicants to clarify. If you have no belief that your family will qualify for federal free and reduced lunch, you do not have to complete a form. Your child will still get the free meals program through Michigan. The issue is there are so many other grants and things that are based on the number of federal free and reduced lunch students that we have, that if those families didn't feel the pressure to go fill out that form, we would start to lose 31A at-risk money. We would start to lose Title I money. We would start to lose all kinds of different funds that, E-rate. You guys know that we get E-rate funds that help us purchase technology stuff. Those would diminish.
So, Mr. Gearball?
Yes.
Not to interrupt your flow even further, but so if you have a doubt, it's better to fill the form out and be told not than to not fill out the form, correct?
Yes.
So that would
Yep.
help with all those funds?
So to clarify, completing an application for the federal reintroduced breakfast and lunch is not a requirement for a student to receive the free breakfast and lunch through the Michigan School Meals Program. Everyone is going to get the free meals. It's just important that families do, if they have any belief that they might qualify, fill out that form. Because qualifying then will get us money for all of those other things. So probably Friday, I'm going to send out one last email on this and clarify. We appreciate everyone that's filled out the form. My household would not qualify. I'm not going to fill out the form. I think there are a lot of families in Milan that aren't going to qualify, and they don't need to go fill out that form. But if they're of the belief that they might qualify, it's beneficial to the district that they do. Some other important facts. Only meals served at school on school days during the school year are included. This has nothing to do with weekends. This has nothing to do with summer food. This is only meals served at school on school days during the school year. The Michigan School Meals Program will begin on the first day of school. Our food service is all set up. The students will still go through the line like they normally did. They'll type in their student number, or at the early elementary grades, they'll have a card that has their number on it, because we have to track every meal that we serve through that meals program. So in the background of the software, they will know whether they're federally free, federally reduced, or Michigan covered. So there's no difference in how the students are going to go through the line, and as always, no one will know what student is what kind of student, but they are still going to go through the line, type in their number, and then get their meal. It's also important, it's one free meal. Students can purchase a second meal if they choose, but that now becomes a purchased meal. It does include all students 4 years and older, including the 4-year-olds in our GSRP program and the 4-year-olds in our tuition-based preschool program. It's going to get a little bit interesting because tuition-based preschool has 3 and 4-year-olds in a classroom. The 3-year-olds do not qualify for the Michigan plan, just 4-year-olds and up. A la carte items, this one is really important. Individual milks are not free. And I know there was some confusion with that last year because you think, well, that's something that the schools would offer. Michigan's plan does not cover individual milks. Also, snacks, second lunches, and for the community to understand, what we call an incomplete meal. The federal government has a requirement of what has to be included in a meal to count as a meal equivalency. It has to have a main dish. It has to have a certain number of fruits and vegetables. It has to have a milk. So if a student comes up and takes everything but is one vegetable short, we're going to tell them you have to take another vegetable or you can't get the meal for free. I know that sounds really weird, but that's the federal guidelines. There has to be a certain number of things on that tray to qualify as free. So, in order to cover a la carte items, individual milks, snacks, second lunches, and incomplete meals, families will still be able to add funds to the Meal Magic portal. We have that turned off until Labor Day because we didn't want families to think they needed to add money and go and add $50 or $100 and then find out, wait a minute, I only did that so my kid can get extra food. So we've kind of turned that off, and we're going to leave that off until this is really kind of cleaned up. And so after Labor Day, that portal will open and families will be able to deposit funds into their accounts. Next topic, the first day of school is Monday, August 28th. We hope that everybody is aware of that and they'll be ready to go. Some transportation information did go on the website today. The rest of that will go out in the next couple of days. Parents should have received transportation postcards, and I know the transportation department's working hard to answer a lot of questions. In June, the Milan Area Schools Board of Education approved the amended and restated Washtenaw Educational Options Consortium, also known as WEOC, agreement. I'm pleased to let you know that the required number of districts in the county also approved that agreement. And last night at the WISD Board of Education meeting, the WISD Board took action and approved the agreement. So the good news is all of the WEOC programs, WAVE, YHI, and ECA, are all now whole and will continue to be run by the WEOC Consortium. We were excited to welcome our staff members back to the 23-24 school year this week. Staff members have been involved in professional development, some starting on Monday, others on Tuesday. We continue today, and the teachers will be involved in professional development tomorrow as well. A great deal of time and effort has been put into making the 23-24 school year a huge success for our students. And I want to reiterate what Mr. McMahon said. That includes a lot of hours from the administrative team over the summer, as well as a lot of time over the summer of our teachers who are preparing curriculum and doing all those things that they do to be ready for the first day of school. And most definitely seeing a lot of staff buzzing around the buildings this week, really coming in and making sure that their rooms are ready to go for our students. Next, Milan Area Schools is partnering with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services to install Michigan-safe school indoor air ventilation systems in all of our classrooms and office spaces. This program provides free air purifiers for K-12 schools. The air purifiers also come with a 5-year supply of filters at no cost to the district. Staying healthy, as we know, leads to better academic outcomes because attendance is better, and it also helps the well-being of our students socially and emotionally. Air purifiers in this program were actually provided by, these are some long names, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Epidemiology Laboratory Capacity Reopening Schools Award. The portable air purifiers will be used in the classrooms and other common areas to reduce the number of harmful microbes and allergens in the atmosphere. We do want to thank MDHHS for this generous program, and you can see a larger version of it sitting right over there. Our classrooms all have a little bit smaller version than that, and teachers have had those dropped off in their rooms, and again, we have the filters to handle them for 5 years, and they are under warranty for 5 years. So we're very excited to be able to offer that. Last, a few of our schools and programs have already held their open houses. A few are wrapping them up or wrapped them up a few minutes ago today, and we do have some others coming up. So the Paddock Early Childhood Center preschool was on August 22nd. The infant toddler is on August 24th, tomorrow. Paddock's was this evening. Simon's open house is tomorrow. The middle schools was today, and the high schools is on September 5th. So we are excited to have all of our parents back into the buildings for those open houses. And again, I do appreciate the fact of all the hard work. And remember, hiring doesn't just happen by the administrative team. Teachers sit on the committees. Depending on what the position is, we might have parapro sitting on the committee, we might have secretary sitting on the committee. Just a thank you to everyone who sat on one of those committees, and sometimes with very short notice. And I am thankful that we are able to go into the year fully staffed in our teaching ranks, and we will keep working on building the other ranks as we move into the school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gearbaugh. Next up is board member comments, and I do want to start with the Big Red Board Chat. We are having a Big Red Board Chat next Tuesday, August 29th. It's going to be at the Paddock Elementary School in the cafeteria. It's going to be at 6:30. The board members that I have attending are Miss Murray, Miss Rosen Leacher, and Miss Heika. We've had one topic proposed, which would be standardized testing and the schedule and how we receive the data and monitor the data. I don't know if there's any other topics that may rise or that you guys have thought about that we could talk about at that meeting. And then obviously it'll be open for any other questions from whoever attends the Big Red Chat. So we'll get that information out via the normal channels for the Big Red Board Chat. I'll let you know. Okay. Any other questions or concerns regarding that?
Mr. Sislo?
Yeah.
If that topic is okay with Mrs. Heika and Ms. Murray, I'm okay with that, and I'd be happy to put together. I think Mr. Farrow suggested that we have kind of a schedule of when these things occur. So Mr. McMahon, if I could just touch base with you briefly so I get a picture of when those different standardized tests are taking place, we could have that for our families. Perfect. You okay?
Cool. That's it for me for right now. Other board member comments?
Mr. Sislo?
Yes, Ms. Murray.
I'll just take a quick moment to kind of add on, I guess, to Mr. Gearbaugh's comments a little bit. I just want to recognize the work of our custodial staff and teams throughout all of our buildings. Over the last few days, I've been wearing my teacher spouse hat and spending many of my evening hours in the middle school carrying boxes and cleaning tables and doing all of the non-thinking related tasks that need to be done to get a classroom up and running. And so the transformation in just the past few days in the middle school specifically has been nothing short of incredible. The building looks beautiful through all the hallways and facilities, and I'm absolutely confident that this is the case through all of our buildings. So again, thank you to all of our facility teams for all of your efforts. It even smells different. You know, it's weird to say, but having spent 5 years in that building, like it's good. And then additionally, when I peek through the classroom doors as I've been walking the hallways, the classrooms look beautiful and welcoming as well. So I want to lift up all of the teachers who are investing unpaid hours beyond their contracts to make this happen for students. It's I think a common trope that teacher, well, they get summers off. Not exactly. They are paid for, the 180-ish days on their contract, and anything that happens outside of that is done because they care and they want to create the best and most welcoming, beautiful environment for our students. So just want to say that I see that. I've been there, and thank you, and make sure that you rest this weekend and take care of yourselves, and so that you can be your best selves, teachers, when you walk through the door on Monday. And then finally, I just want to welcome all of our new staff members to Milan area schools and would welcome them to visit a board meeting to say hello and to please be in communication with us and your administrators to let us know whatever we are able to do to smooth your transition and make sure that you are well supported as a new staff member in our district. So thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. Others?
Mr.
Mr.
Sislo.
Sislo.
I'll go.
Go ahead, Mr. Farrow.
We'll go with Mr. Farrow.
I too want to welcome back all of our teachers, administrators, students, principals, families. I hope you all have a great year. There are some students that are already participating in school activities and athletics. So I just hope that everyone has a great year. I also want to echo what Ms. Murray has said about our administrative team as well as our principals. If somehow I managed to breach any of your trust, that was not my intent. So you can count on continued support from me, and I look forward to achieving all of the goals that we have for our stakeholders within the district. I do have a few finance updates. The district is still trying to close out the last fiscal year. The revenue and expense report for June 30th has not been finalized just yet. I hope that we will get that soon. Some of the dollars that need to be spent are tied to staffing. So we don't want to put a report out that isn't entirely accurate just yet. The check for the first half of our financial audit will be going out this week if it hasn't already. And then I had inquired of Mr. Girabaugh about school of choice numbers, and what he said makes perfect sense. Basically, we won't really know our school of choice numbers for a few weeks into the school year. But I'm just curious what our numbers were, and obviously at this time it's a bit unknown what those numbers are going to shake out to be, because students may commit to going to Milan and then choose to go elsewhere, or go elsewhere and not tell Milan. So I just wanted to share that information with you. I also wanted to share, I think I sent an email to the board, but I apologize again. But I, with my job, I have a work conflict. I'm not able to go to the MASB conference, but I will do my best to make the one in the spring. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Farrow. Others? Oh, yeah, Mr. Gearbaugh.
I just wanted to clarify, Mr. Farrow and I did have a good conversation. It's difficult for any district right now to anticipate their student count, because as he said, the biggest thing for us is all of the students across the state are excited to go tell their new district they're coming there, but they don't always think to go tell their past district that they're leaving. And so all districts experience this. Right now, our numbers are somewhat artificially inflated because all of the ads have happened and some of the takeaways have not happened. And superintendents talk about this all the time. This is the most important time of year to have a really good handle on our pupil count, and it's also the most difficult time of year to have a handle on the pupil count. We are very diligent about working on that, and all you have to do is ask any of our building administrative assistants and they'll tell you. On the second day of school, I send out a spreadsheet and they have to tell me every student that hasn't been here for the first 2 days of school, and if they've contacted the family and what that family said when they contacted them. And so we start tracking them down very, very early in the first week of school, so that we can get a good count within the first 5 or 6 days of school. And I appreciate our administrative assistants are diligent on that. And then about every 3 days, I clear the spreadsheet out and send it again and say I need an update. And we kind of check it every 2 to 3 days for those first couple weeks of school. So a huge thank you to our administrative assistants during those first couple of weeks. They are working incredibly hard to make sure that we have accurate counts and we know what students are coming and aren't coming. The other thing that happens, a lot of families, usually families that are newer to the district, don't realize school's starting until they see a yellow bus go down their road. And all of a sudden go, oh, okay. And so you'd be surprised at how many families will walk through that door to talk to Ann Four next Monday or Tuesday going, I think school started and I need to register my student. We also ask that our families do really take the registration seriously. Our administrative assistants also, after registration day, try to follow up with every family that didn't do registration. Because of the online registration, and I get it, a lot of families think, well, I was there last year, I don't need to go register this year. But we do need them to do that, and so we have made follow-up calls to all the families that didn't do the online or in-person registration as well, and so we're really working on tightening those numbers down. So I did appreciate the conversation with Mr. Farrow, and I think he understands now that it's really difficult this time of year. I wish I had the numbers exactly. I really do, but it's just difficult to do. So thank you.
Thank you. Others?
Mr. Sislo.
Yes, Ms. Rosenleacher.
So I also would like to take a moment to thank our administrative team. I know that they've worked very hard. It's been exciting as I drive around the community and see the cars in the parking lots getting ready for school. It's a daunting task, to be sure. I'm excited because I think we're going to be able to take a little bit of a breath. It'll be a normal year, whatever normal is anymore, but I feel like there's a lot of enthusiasm for school again, and our families and our students. I'm hoping our students have started to get to bed early, because I know my neighbor, who is a high school senior, is like, 3 o'clock in the morning isn't going to work anymore. And I mean, he's an amazing kid, but so make sure you're getting that rest to get ready for next week. And thank you, Mrs. Mahaney and the math department, for your hard work and that clarification that you provided us. I think that was terribly helpful to every one of us on the board. And to my fellow board members, I'd also like to say thank you. I know we don't always agree all the time, but I'm glad that we can have the hard conversations and continue to move forward in the best interest of our school community and all of our families and students. So let's have a great start to the year.
Thank you, Ms. Rosenleacher. Others?
Mr. Sisla?
Yes, Ms. Gutierrez.
I'd like to start by conveying to our admin team, our principals, our many wonderful educators and paraprofessionals and support staff and all of those in the buildings, how much we value you. And Mrs. Murray, what you said earlier, reflecting on last meeting, really resonated with me, and it was so eloquent, and I need to go back and listen to that, because it just really struck me as my sentiment very much. And as Mr. Farrow said, if there was anything that I did as well at last meeting that fractured one's belief in confidence that I have in our administrative team and educators, I sincerely apologize. That's not my intent at all. I think we all on this board care so deeply and passionately about this district, and want to see this district succeed in every way, shape, and form. But to all of you, I see you, I value you, I trust you, and I care deeply about the relationship that we have with each and every staff member in this building and throughout the district. Along those lines, I think that one thing that will continue to help us as board members and help us continue to foster this relationship is communication. Thinking and reflecting on last meeting, that word came up many, many, many times, and I agree with what Mrs. Rosenleacher said earlier, that we do not need to micromanage every decision. We do not need to know the nitty-gritties of every administrative decision. But when there's something big, or when there's some big change, we are here as part of your partnership team. We are the advocates. We want to make sure that we are able to effectively represent the happenings of this district. And so keeping up on communication when things are happening so that we can continue to advocate and represent the district, I think is really our wish on both sides. I would also like to wish all of our students and staff a wonderful year. I'm excited. I was running quite literally from the middle school open house tonight, and although my tween was dragging his feet into the building, once he got there, he was really excited to see his friends and his teachers again, and so I'm just grateful for the enthusiasm to kick the year off. And I've got to say, I was driving by Paddock on the way to the middle school open house and couldn't help but giggle as I was watching those kids skip and hop into the building. And I teased my son that I was going to skip into the middle school open house, and he groaned, and clearly we're too old for that now. But the enthusiasm in whatever shape or form is evident throughout the district. And I'm really grateful for that. I too, unfortunately, as Mr. Farrow stated, I cannot make the entirety of the MASB meeting. I will be at the Gerontological Society of America meeting, learning about our aging processes. So I'm sorry to miss it, but if I do need to attend the Thursday night, I will be there as a delegate. The last thing is I really want to thank Mr. Gearba or the administrative team or whoever is responsible for these air purifiers that came. I also want to thank Mr. Gearba for saying epidemiology without a hitch as an epidemiologist. This press release came across my desk from my colleagues this week about these free air purifiers, and I sent it right to Brian, and I said, hey, we got to get on this, and he said, already done, they're arriving this week, we're going to have one in every single classroom, and I'm just so proud of the proactive nature of our district, and, you know, this is a very effective way in keeping our inhabitants of the building safe and healthy from viruses, from allergens, from all sorts of things. And so I'm just really grateful that even when we don't see the day-to-day, that these wonderful things are happening throughout the district and advocating for the well-being of our students. So I wish everybody a great year, and excited to see it progress.
Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez.
Just quickly, air purifiers, a huge thank you to Nurse Dawn Hines. She was the one that kind of counted all the spaces and got that order placed and filled out the forms for us. And a huge thank you to all of the custodians for delivering them to all of the classrooms. If you can just imagine, now they're not all that large, but they're the size of a kind of a paper shredder, and we had to get one of those to every single space in the building. And by the way, they give us the 5 years of filters now.
Oh, nice.
And you have to store them,
Of course.
and distribute them. So we also thank our custodial staff for finding nooks and crannies in every space possible to store them all for the next 5 years as we use some of them each year.
Mr. Sisler.
Yes, Ms. Heike.
I too want to apologize to the administrative team and our teachers. For your understood feelings of not being heard and being second guessed. I hope that, you know, my actions over the last 5, maybe 6 years, because it takes you a little while to learn what you're doing up here. But I hope that my actions over the last 5 or 6 years have really demonstrated to the administrative team and to our teachers that I'm here to support you. I am. You know, I'm always asking, what do you need from us? What can we do to help? What do you need the board to do to support you? And I personally think that while I understand, I'm not trying to gaslight anyone. I understand everyone's feelings. I do. But to me, a professional, professionals, and, you know, anyone in a relationship that has worked to build that relationship, especially over the amount of time I feel like we've worked to build this relationship, sometimes you can disagree. And I did not intend my actions at the last board meeting to discount any of the work that was being done or discount anyone else's belief on the path that we should have gone through. It was just a disagreement. I just disagree about that path. And, you know, I hope that you can, while you have your feelings, you can maybe appreciate where I came from last weekend. I also want to welcome back all of our staff and students. I did not go to the middle school open house. I sent my husband with our child. But both of mine are already very excited to go back. They're already talking about seeing their friends every day. And I think that speaks volumes to the fact that even 2 teenage girls are excited to go back to school, of the work that our staff does. They're excited to be here. They're excited to see their teachers again. And that's because of the relationships that the teachers have built and that the administration has built with not only my kids, but everyone's kids since the moment they walked into Paddock's preschool. And so I appreciate everyone for that as well. And I hope everyone has a safe year. And I hope it's a much quieter year than it was last year.
Thank you, Ms. Heike. Others?
Mr. Sisler.
Ms. Free?
Thank you.
Yes.
I too would like to thank you, Mrs. Mahaney, for coming out, for reaching out, and for everything you've done for how many years now?
13.
Yeah, thank you. Not just for tonight and not just for, you know, but for all of those. And coming back. It's nice to have you, and I hope PD went well. I hear that it did, so I appreciate you putting in those extra days. As Mrs. Murray said, it's not just the 180 that you have kids in front of you, but the other days that you're there, and you are very much appreciated, as well as your department and all of our staff. I am glad that PD went well, so I appreciate the updates on that as well. Mr. Yerbaugh, thank you for that. I do have just a small check-in. Do we have like, where are we as far as our policies and going with Neola or Thrun? I just wanted, me and Mr. Sislo talked about that, I just wanted to touch base on that, and our board operating procedures, if we are updating that, or where we are in that one, how that goes, just to, find out, nothing to need to move on, I'm just curious where we are.
Yep, so we met with Troon, and the next steps are for the policy committee to go through those changes. My hope is that once we get through the first 2 weeks of school, that we can start working on that, and then hopefully get through them by the end of the year. That's the goal.
Perfect. Thank you, Mrs. Heiko.
And that will include the board operating procedures. Troon's policies are encompass the entire policy.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And to get us out of here really quickly, I just want to wish our athletes all the best this year. We have several of them. They're great and appreciate them representing us. And I'd like to wish everyone a happy new school year, because here we go. And hopefully it is restful and peaceful. And I don't even want to say the word. So hopefully it's great and everyone feels appreciated and has a good one. Thank you, Mr. Sislo.
You're welcome. I will just say ditto. I do want to thank the public for coming out this evening. Appreciate it, the public participation in this meeting. And for those that are watching online, I also think when we do have staff come and are able to help us with information as well. So I do appreciate that greatly. I was able to attend opening day on the board's behalf, and I did welcome all the staff back to school on your behalf, and it was enthusiastic. It's great to be able to walk down the hall and hear a buzzing cafeteria and then see a full auditorium of staff that are ready to serve our students in all the ways that they are able. And I know that staff is going to continue to do that. And Mr. Gearbaugh and the administrative team gave an excellent opening day presentation. And I know there was a lot of work that was done around that and a lot of work to be done around that. And I look forward to that coming to the board in the near future. So with that, are there any other questions or concerns? All right, the meeting is adjourned at 8:36.